We're Candace
and Tanya. We're sisters, we're moms, we're wives.
and we're from the True North, strong and free.
And we're letting you in on our real life experiences, struggles, weirdness, finding the funny in the random every day.
And those moments that make you shake your head. We all have them. Those moments that make you say, honest to God.
Honest to God!
Let's get this party started. Oh, hi there, friends.
Hey,
I'm Candace.
I'm Tanya.
Thanks for joining us for our first official episode on our brand spanking new podcast, Honest to God.
Officially official.
Official.
This is officially episode number uno.
Uno.
The very first official episode. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you listened to our intro episode, welcome back. If you are brand new and you're just diving in right to our first actual episode,
You're missing something. You're missing out on the intro. You need to listen.
yes, welcome. But go back and listen to the first one because, it's good.
Yeah.
And we want you to know more about us. But hey, you know what? Whatever tickles your fancy. If you want to do it backwards too, cool.
Hey, we're not here to tell you how to run your life.
No. We're just here to
entertain you. Yes. Yeah. So what are we doing here? What are we going to talk about today?
Wow, we have some interesting stories to tell.
Oh.
It's going to be a diving into a whole lot of motherhood questions and stories.
Oh, hashtag mom life.
And journeys.
Oh.
Hashtag mom life to the max.
Okay, so we all have our own stories and experiences with being a mama, becoming a mama bear.
It's an interesting ride. It doesn't ever get easier. And actually, even just this past week, this is kind of bang on topic for our episode. But my daughter, Ivy, she's 2. She was quite sick earlier this week, and we ended up, unfortunately, having to take her to Emerge over the weekend because she woke up with a high fever, and it only just got worse throughout the day. And I don't think that trip to Emerge ever gets easier. Like, it just sucks so bad every single time.
And it hurts your heart so bad to see them so sick like that.
Yeah, and that's not a fun place at all to be. But that is kind of how our week started out. She's doing way better now. She's not sick anymore. She's back to her rambunctious,
She's her smiley self.
Yeah, she's her spunky little self.
Oh, little Georgia Peach.
She is back to being peachy and sunny and a whole bunch of funny. That's just kind of what motherhood holds sometimes. So on this topic today, we're going to take you through the journey of how we found out we were going to be moms.
Yeah, and kind of what that looked like for both of us. And I don't know, kind of let you guys in a little bit on our experience, past and present, I guess, as mama bears.
Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
I think so. I never thought that I didn't want to be. So
You just,
I guess, yeah.
had it in your soul?
I guess so, yeah.
Deep down in your soul.
I just knew one day.
One day. I didn't always feel the same way. I remember telling our mom growing up that I was never going to have kids.
And I distinctly remember that being after you saw me with kids.
Is it?
Yes.
I was just going to say that I don't remember why I felt that way or really what drive me to have that strong opinion. I just was very confident for a period of time that I was very content in my life and I had no desire to have kids. Not that I had anything at all against kids. I just had zero desire to have kids.
And so there is like 13 years difference between my first child and your first child.
Yeah.
So
there is. Yeah. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I know. So in case you guys missed it in our intro, Tanya has a beautiful little girl, just turned 2 on Christmas Eve. And I have a 13-year-old daughter, Chloe, and a 15-year-old son, Jake. I also have 2 stepchildren, Hannah, who is almost 18, and Andrew, who is 20. So we'll touch on, I guess, today me becoming a mom to Jake and Chloe. Maybe we'll get into becoming a stepmom too, or maybe we'll get into that another time, because I feel like that in itself is a whole episode that we can talk about, because there's so many other mama bears out there that are stepmoms too, and that
100%.
happened, I don't want to say a little bit later in life, but because it really wasn't, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, I am a mom to 4, and I myself gave birth to 2, Jake and Chloe.
2 beautiful babies.
My mama's babies. I dropped Chloe off at cadets the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm driving by and all the cadets are walking with her, I rolled down the window. I'm like, Mama loves you, baby. She was mortified.
Success.
Yeah. And as I'm hanging out the window waving.
Bye.
Bye-bye, baby.
Bye, baby. Oh, gosh. Those are the moments I live for. I can't wait to do that to Ivy. Yeah. I just do it to myself. I just like to see people's reactions when I do strange things.
So, I don't know. I feel like you were maybe 16, 17 when I had Jake. So it's kind of like when you were like, between 17 and 19, where he was like between newborn and age 2. I think maybe that possibly influenced your decision. I'm like, I don't know if babies are for me. I don't know.
I remember when you had Jake, I was in grade 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember at all when that opinion of I don't want kids started. I have zero recollection of like when I said those things, but I remember that it was for a good while that I was just totally content.
Yeah.
But I love my nieces and nephews. So I don't think it had anything to do with me being like, oh God, I'm turning the other way. This maker's closed.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we should scrap that. Maybe it had nothing to do with that at all.
No, I don't know what it had to do with, but clearly my opinion of that changed.
Yeah, there's different seasons in life. Yeah, there's always things that you think that you can't live without, that you grow out of, or things that you would never think that you would want, and you end up, wanting those things. So it's all different seasons in life. And as we grow up and get to know ourselves more, we learn more about what we really want in life. So
yeah, it wasn't until 2014, 2015 that I had really decided, me and my husband actually seriously started talking about wanting to have kids. We were married for a good 6 years before we decided that it was going to be something that we wanted to pursue, like within the next couple of years. We were just, not that we ever didn't want kids, we were just totally content in our life and like
just wasn't the right time yet.
Yeah, we were just finding our lane as like married couple. We never lived together before we were married, so just becoming like husband and wife and moving into the same house and
learning how to be that
groove. Yeah. So that was just a whole adventure. And me and my husband, Mitch, are high school sweethearts. So we were also quite young when we got married. So we were in no hurry and just wanted to figure out our lives and our careers before deciding to add a baby into the mix.
Yeah.
And
smart.
Yeah, it all happened absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
Exactly when it was meant to. I totally believe that.
Totally. So let's just kind of let our lovely listeners in on kind of like what was going on in our lives when we found out we were going to be moms.
So when I found out I was pregnant, it wasn't too long before that my husband decided to start his own company. He decided to walk away from his very secure job. Still working in the same field. He's an architect, and he decided to open his own architectural firm. He decided to take the leap. And, at that same time, we owned a house and decided that if we were going to make this happen, if he was going to walk away from his job and resign, that we needed to move somewhere where we could kind of make that happen. So in the time, we decided to sell our house and sort of use some of that money to kind of just help him invest in his company and take that direction and that approach to it. So when I found out I was pregnant, we were renting a very small apartment,
Yes.
just 1-bedroom apartment.
It was very small.
It was
very cozy,
yes,
very quaint.
so cute. And we absolutely loved the location of our little apartment. And if it wasn't for the size, we would have stayed there for so long because we absolutely loved it.
It was a perfect location.
Yeah. So that was kind of our first question when we found out we were expecting. Okay, so we have 40 weeks, like kind of at the max to move, figure out what we're going to do. Like, are we going, what the crack are we going to do? Are we going to look for something bigger? Are we going to decide to buy something again? So that was kind of what was going on in our life. It was just very transitional period of time, but there was a lot of growth that happened in our lives
very quickly. Yeah.
In Mitch's career, like in our personal life, a lot happening. Thankfully his business is a success and he's doing great with that. But that is kind of like the gist of what our life looked like at that time. So we were totally trying and planning for that to happen, but when it happened, it was like, okay, now we really got to like get our ducks in a row and we have to figure this out.
Yeah, it's happening now.
Yeah.
Right now. Yesterday.
It happened. It's here.
Yeah.
It's happening. What about you?
So I guess my life at that time when I found out I was pregnant, both of my kids, my kids are 2.5 years apart. And during that time of my life, it was very difficult. I'd mentioned in the intro that I was previously married. And so it was just not a great situation. It was not a very happy time in my life, unfortunately. So as much as I was, overjoyed that I was bringing a child into the world, it was also a very difficult time too. So it was a lot of mixed emotions for me. Never, ever once would I have ever thought that no matter what my circumstance was, my child was still a blessing to me, no matter what I was going through at that time.
Totally.
Yeah, so mixed emotions for me. It was, not going to lie, it was probably the toughest time of my entire life is during the times that I was pregnant and found out that I was going to be having both my children. So I feel like maybe I will go more into depth into that maybe for another podcast. It's kind of a very vulnerable subject for me and unfortunately a lot of women. And maybe we will talk about that sometime and I'll let you in on that. But that was kind of what was going on in my life at that time. It was pretty tough time in my life, but my babies are blessings.
There are so many facets to these stories that are going to open up cracks into other topics that we're going to get into at a later date.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to open up and be real with you guys and kind of spill some stuff that is pretty raw, I guess.
It's going to get real.
Yeah, we said in the intro that it's the good and the bad and the ugly, and that's what life is sometimes. So we have lots of good and bad and some ugly.
Yeah.
And it makes us who we are.
It totally does.
Right.
Yeah, it's all in the journey. The journey comes with trials. So you found out you were pregnant with Jake, which, at the time you didn't know it was Jake in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you find out you're pregnant. So paint a picture for me and for our listeners of what your pregnancy was like.
So pregnancy with Jake specifically was awful.
Guys, we're starting with a high note here.
I was so sick from beginning to end. I was literally like bedridden. If I wasn't vomiting, I felt like I was about to at any moment. I couldn't eat anything. I was so sick the entire time. And
from like start to finish?
From start to finish.
Oh
I was so sick. And it was tough because I wasn't getting a lot of support at home either. So I, to be honest, felt kind of like alone really in my pregnancies. So I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but that's the way.
Yeah, I hug you.
It was a really tough time, and it was a really tough pregnancy, and I was young. I was 19.
And not to mention, and if your environment isn't the greatest at that time, your body is going through so many changes. The amount of like hormonal changes going on, it just magnifies everything around
100%,
you.
yeah.
And just, it doesn't make things any easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then with Chloe, I wasn't as sick, so that was nice. Still in a very kind of stressful situation at that point in my life, and not with a ton of support again. But it was for some reason when I was pregnant with her, I would feel a little nauseous in the morning, but then I would eat an orange.
I remember you telling me
and
this
I was
before.
fine for the rest of the day as long as I had my orange.
The citrus.
Yeah, and then I was fine.
Citrus and pregnancy, I swear.
So that when it comes to like how I physically felt and not being sick, being pregnant with Chloe was easier than me being pregnant with Jake. I don't know if that has anything to do with a girl or boy or not. Who knows?
Right.
It was definitely a lot easier with Chloe. Wasn't as sick.
And what about how was the pregnancy in terms of, did you have any complications during either of them, or aside from the morning sickness, was it pretty well smooth sailing?
Yeah, during the pregnancy, yes.
Yeah.
The delivery of Jake was also horrendous.
Story.
That was, that's a whole other story. It was he was not easy to deliver, that's for sure.
But don't they say if you have a rough pregnancy, you usually have an amazing, like, calm, happy baby?
Yeah, Jake was pretty good. Yeah, he was pretty laid back. He just did not sleep through the night for a very long time. But.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true for me either. I don't know if it's maybe true for you. I'm not really sure if that saying is true for me.
Tell us about your pregnancy.
My pregnancy. So my first few months of pregnancy were quite rough. I was fine for the first 6 or 7 weeks, and then morning sickness hit me hard, and I was so sick up until about the second trimester. So I was very lucky in the sense that my morning sickness didn't go past that point. So that was okay. However, once the morning sickness subsided, I found out that I had what's called a subchorionic hematoma, which is just kind of...
Come again?
Yeah. It's just a complication in the pregnancy that you have to be very careful of, because it can easily dissolve itself and not be an issue, or it can become much more serious and lead to the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. So I was put on bed rest for a month or maybe a bit longer during my pregnancy. I think that was around like the 4 or 5 month mark that I found that out. And yeah, so I was essentially on bed rest for a good 4 to 6 weeks until we had another ultrasound, and thankfully things were good at that next ultrasound, and the rest of my pregnancy was pretty good for the most part. I really don't have any memory of anything scary or much sickness beyond that point. Cravings wise, I would not go anywhere near an olive before I was pregnant. I hated olives, despite, it's a food that I've always wanted to like. I've wanted to like olives, and I just absolutely hated them.
Just could not get on board.
Yeah, and then around maybe the 4 month mark again, I started craving olives out of nowhere. I just wanted to eat olives, and I remember my girlfriends telling me, we were at a restaurant and I ordered a plate of olives.
A whole plate? Just olives?
I ordered a plate of warm olives, and my girlfriend said to me, "You hate olives. Why are you ordering that?" And I was like, I know. I don't know why. I just really want them. And from that point on...
The new me loves olives.
Yeah, I ate olives my whole pregnancy, and I still love them. I eat them all the time. It was olives and Nestea iced tea. It had to be Nestea.
I don't like brisk.
Yeah, me either. It couldn't be brisk. It couldn't be anything else. It had to be Nestea. And I know there's caffeine in Nestea, but it's just a very small amount.
Don't judge me.
Give me a break. Don't judge me. It's minuscule with the amount that,
It's hardly even there.
I know. It's just in the bottom is fine. So that was kind of like my pregnancy in a nutshell. A little rough go at the beginning, but then in the end, it was
smoothed out.
Yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing, and cravings weren't too crazy, but it was for the most part pretty good.
Good. So what would you say was your biggest fear about becoming a mom?
I think my biggest fear was just kind of basic things. Am I going to read my baby properly? Am I going to know if something's wrong? Am I going to know what she wants? And I think my hugest fear is thinking about labor. Thinking about labor didn't scare me at all. But thinking about taking the baby home after I had it was probably the scariest thought for me. Just like, what do I do? What do I do when it's just me and Mitch and the baby, and Mitch goes back to work and it's just me and the baby? That was just, but I think that is probably just a universal fear for mothers.
Yeah.
Always scared that we're not going to do the right thing.
Totally. But then you just know.
Yeah.
You're given the instinct.
You have that mama instinct.
Yeah.
You just know.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
We were designed that way.
Yeah. Trust your mama instincts is, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It all works out. And it's crazy how, even though you're terrified when you walk through the door of your home with your brand new baby,
your instinct kicks in and you just know.
It's like, whoa,
what you need to do.
I've been at this for a week and things are going all right. Oh my gosh, it's been a month. It's been 6 months. It's been a year. Okay, we're doing this.
The child is still living.
Yeah. My child is still alive. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. That is what I would say to myself, home alone every day.
So you said that your biggest fear wasn't exactly the labor of it.
No.
That 100% was my biggest fear.
You were scared before you went into it?
Yes, it was like, because I was seeing how big I was getting. And then I just remember like all of a sudden one day it hitting me, like smacking me in the face, like, oh my God, this thing has to come out.
Well, bam.
Well, bam. That's the sound it made. And I like the reality hit me that I'm going to have to push this baby out. Yeah. It has to come out. It can't stay there. Yeah. It's going to happen and it's going to hurt so much.
Whether I like it or not, this is happening.
Yeah. So that was the first fear that I remember feeling about the whole process of becoming a mom was just the realization that, oh my God, it's going to come out.
This thing
and there was no turning back. Like there was no way to stop it.
Right? Yeah. There's no way.
So I felt out of control of that. And that scared me a little bit. And I think another biggest fear was just, given what was going on in my life at the time, I would be lying if I said that I wasn't afraid of, am I going to be a good mom?
What's life going to look like?
What is life going to look like for them?
Earthside.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess maybe a little bit of myself, I don't know, I guess kind of, I don't know how really to describe it, but
how maybe worried about how you're going to handle it all.
Yeah.
How you're going to
worried
react.
About, the environment and the situation that I was bringing my kids into. I think I felt guilt and fear about that. But I think, and again, I was so young, right? Like I was 19 when I was pregnant with Jake, and there was a lot of things for me to kind of there was a lot of uncertainty in my life at that point in time. So I think there's kind of a lot of fear surrounding becoming a mom at that point in my life.
Yeah, 19 is, kind of a crazy time for a lot of people. And so add into the mix that you're expecting a baby and, you would hope that things would have in your personal life maybe look different at that time. It's for sure
it wasn't
stressful.
ideal. It was not an ideal situation to be bringing a baby into, I guess. It was, I don't know.
I just want to ask you so many questions right now, but I'm holding back because we are going to dive so deep into this in a future episode. It's not even funny. Get your earlobes ready.
You know what?
I have so many questions burning.
It's not a pretty story, but it's my story, and it's made me who I am, and all of that I'm grateful for, because
that's the beautiful thing about trials is that.
Yeah, and ultimately it is part of my story that God brought me through. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what brought you to sitting here on this couch right now.
Yeah.
Sitting here chatting about it with the world. So then you go into labor. Do you want to talk about labor?
Well, Jake he has a very round head. So
We're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. And I was not a large frame at all at that point. So it was very difficult, to be honest. And it was down to the wire. I had been in labor for a long time, pushing for a long time. And it was getting quite tense in the delivery room because he was in the birth canal for too long, and it was getting very tense that they had to get him out as soon as possible. And I was absolutely exhausted. I'd been in labor for 24 hours and pushing for many hours, and I was totally out of gas.
Yeah.
And couldn't do anything more. So they ended up having to use the vacuum device.
That must have been just a scary
moment.
I know how scary my labor was, and it didn't get to that point. Like, I think it was getting close to that point,
Yes.
but it didn't. So I just, like, you are amazing.
And if anybody listening has had to have the vacuum when delivering and did not have any epidural or anything, like I did not, it is probably the worst pain you've ever felt in your life. It's even worse than the contractions.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was, and they had a student nurse operating.
Why is it always that way?
I know. Like, in this intense situation, why are we having I get they need to learn, but this is a point where somebody who knows what they're doing needs to get this baby out.
Yeah, and it's a matter of, like, every moment is literally so important at that time.
And if you've ever seen the part of the vacuum that goes on the baby's head, that has to be, excuse me for my graphic description, but that has to be inserted.
Yeah.
Like, to be put on the baby's head, right? So they had to do that. And mind you, again, I did not have any epidural or anything like that. So I'm feeling all of this. And they had to attach this to Jake's head.
I didn't know you never had an epidural.
No. Okay. So no, that's, I did have an epidural, but they had taken it out or stopped it about 3 hours before I actually delivered.
Oh my gosh.
And it wears off so fast. So by the time I delivered, I was. Yeah. And so the person operating the suction, the student, messed something up and they had to take it out and put it back on again.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, I was almost delirious at this point. I was not only exhausted, but in so much pain. I was like, it was so stressful. But finally he came out, and then, you tend to just kind of forget all of that.
Isn't that insane how that happens?
Yeah, right. And now a little bit of brutal honesty, but I can't even tell you, by the end of all of this, I did not even recognize my own vajayjay. It was almost unrecognizable as my own vajayjay.
I think, like...
Is that okay to say?
I'm sure.
I just said it.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm not. It'll be okay. Other women experience that too, right?
It's a part of what happens. I think, unless you have a cesarean, although I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think even still, blood rushes to the area, things change. But that is an intense, like, birth story.
It was very intense. Yes.
But he made it.
He did make it. He's a trooper.
You're a trooper.
I'm the trooper.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like, Chloe was much easier. Chloe didn't have any complications. It was a much shorter labor. She was easy.
Yeah, she just peachy.
Yeah.
Like, boop, boop, I'm here.
Pretty much just slid out of there, Not that easy, but easier than Jake.
My labor was closer to your story of having Jake than, Chloe. I definitely had a difficult labor as well. I actually go into, like, super detail about the labor on my YouTube channel. So if you want to, like, hear an actual in-depth version of my full birth story on Ivy, you can totally check out that YouTube channel. But I'll give a synopsis of it here too. So I went into labor at 41 weeks, or just shy of 41 weeks, I think. Yeah, sorry, I was 40 weeks, 4 days, I believe, when I went into labor. And it started on a Friday night. Why am I having such a hard time remembering right now?
What was Christmas? Christmas Day was a Monday, wasn't it? So it started Sunday night, I think.
No, it was a Friday.
Sorry, no, must have been because...
Well, whatever day it was, mommy brain is a real thing. It was
years later.
December 23rd, whatever day of the week that was. It was December 23rd, and my contractions started around 6 p.m. I labored at home through the night until the next morning and ended up going to the hospital the next morning at around 9 a.m. And things got really intense after our midwife broke my water. My water didn't break on its own, so she ended up breaking my water. I remember at around noon that day, and as soon as that happened, everything just went from intense to like super, super intense.
Mm-hmm.
And everything happened really hard and fast and quick. And I ended up getting the epidural, but I had complications with the epidural, and it didn't really work very well for me. I don't know if it was something with how they had put the epidural in or whatever it was, but it only helped with some feeling on the right side of my body.
The exact same thing happened to me when they
Really?
gave me my epidural. It only affected the right side.
Yeah, it was the strangest thing. Only the right side. And not even all the way. I could still feel everything on the right side. It was just like a much more like muted, dull feeling.
Yeah, I think exactly
over the left side. So once my contractions got super intense, I never had a break. Like I never had any relief. And they were back to back to back. It wasn't like a contraction and then I was fine for a minute and then another contraction. It was just back to back to back. And when I started pushing, it was difficult too. I was pushing for, I remember saying in that story, in my YouTube story, that it was about 3 hours, but it's just because the time frame is just rough. It's hard for me to remember. But I remember the midwife telling me that I was getting close to that 4 hour point. And do you remember her saying that? Because Mom
and that we had
me,
to get the baby out.
Yeah. So my mom and Candace were both in the delivery room with me. And she and Mom remembers this too, her coming up to me and telling me point blank, like, you need to get your baby out now because it's almost at that 4 hour mark. And I was going to say my baby because I didn't know it was Ivy at the time. I didn't know if it was a boy or girl. So the baby's heart rate was plummeting super low during my whole labor. So it was really intense. And that was part of the reason why she was like, this, things aren't looking good. You need to get the baby out now. So it was super intense for a while. And I don't even know what happened within me, but as soon as she said those words to me, I pushed.
You dug a little deeper somehow. Yeah,
I don't even know.
And you were exhausted. I just wanted to push for you.
Yeah. I just was pushing, and thankfully she ended up arriving. Mm-hmm. She ended up coming into the world on December 24th, Christmas Eve.
It was magical.
It was magical. It was an intense labor as well. It was super scary. When I think about my labor, I hear other people talking about their labor and, it was so wonderful. I'm like, that was the most terrifying day of my entire life. Yeah. I've never been more scared or terrified of like any time in my life than that day. Yeah. Like it was absolutely insane, but totally worth it in the end.
Oh, definitely. And it's true when they say you kind of forget the pain.
Yeah.
You kind of do forget. You don't forget how much it hurt, but you forget.
Yeah, I can't. It's hard. I don't know if I could describe the feeling.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
I'm definitely brave enough to endure it again for another child.
Yeah.
It doesn't scar you that badly.
Mm-hmm. No.
It
short-term pain for long-term gain,
but emotionally, your heart grows so much, and you're like, I'll do that again for her.
Yeah.
She's perfect. She's the best.
So you know what I felt after when I found out that I was pregnant with Chloe. So maybe every mom can relate to this, but when you have a child and you find out you're pregnant with another child, I had that where I'm like, what if I don't love this one as much?
I hear that all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, how can I love another child as much as I love this one? And as soon as you have that baby, that is not even a thought in your mind anymore. And you can just, and you wonder how you could have even wondered that in the first place.
Yeah.
So
I wonder that, like, we only have Ivy right now, but I wonder about that too. I love this baby girl so much. It hurts my heart to think about splitting.
How am I going to divide this?
Yeah, like, I never want her to think I love anyone more than her. Like, I don't know if I ever could love anyone more than her.
Know.
But I know it will happen.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but I think every mom has that feeling when they find out they're pregnant with their second.
Yeah.
That you have that, oh my God, am I going to be a horrible mom to this one? Is the first one my favorite?
Yeah. Oh, there is a favorite child. Okay.
But that totally went away. When I had my baby girl, it was just like, this is my baby girl.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. You have your firstborn, that this is my firstborn, and then I mean, I don't, I mean, you just, I don't know. I think you have a special bond with every child in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that for sure.
Totally.
And they both come in different times in different seasons of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, you know, the bond with them is going to be different. They're going to represent a time in your life.
Yeah.
And they're just an entirely different person, entirely different pregnancy, an entirely different experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Entirely different soul. Connecting
a whole
with
soul
yours.
of their own.
Souls connecting. We're getting deep.
Soulful.
I feel
what? Okay, so what is like not at all what you thought it would be about motherhood? What picture or vision did you have in your head about being a mother, and then that was totally blown away?
I didn't realize how much I would use Google. I Googled so much stuff in the first, I still do. In the first, especially 6 months to a year, you're like, oh my God, is this normal? Is this normal? Like, what's going on? I totally didn't expect to be attached to my Google account. I didn't expect that out of motherhood. But I also didn't expect the worry that comes once you have a baby. Like, you are constantly worried about them. I'm constantly worried about Ivy. You love them so much that your greatest fear ever is that something could be wrong, or that, something could hurt them, or they could be sad, or, something could
They become your
cry.
whole world. They completely take over
total
your thoughts.
Protection mode. Yeah. And I remember asking Mom, because Ivy's first year of life, especially her first 6 months, were very trying. She had some difficulties with being allergic to essentially not really my breast milk, but dairy, cow's milk protein. And it just caused a whole slew of issues. And it was months before we figured out what it was. So it was a lot of emerge visits and pediatric visits. And so it was just kind of a very stressful time, especially that first 6 months. And I remember calling Mom one day, just crying, because I was taking Ivy back to the hospital because we were concerned about something. And I remember asking her, does this feeling ever stop? Do you ever stop worrying? I feel sick to my stomach constantly with just worry over her, because I just want
her to be okay.
Yeah, I want everything to be fine. I want the best for her. And so I totally didn't expect, I knew, of course, you're going to love this child with everything you got, but I didn't anticipate that feeling of worry constantly. And I don't think that will ever leave.
Yeah.
That is still lingering. I think that's the greatest thing I kind of didn't really put too much thought into or anticipate. Is yours similar or totally different?
Well, I'm going to say probably more of, because my kids are teenagers now, I think that, of course, when you're younger, I remember being Jake's age. I remember being 15, almost 16, and thinking, I had the world figured out. And I remember thinking, because I was a rebellious teenager, that I remember thinking, when I'm mom, I'm not going to forget what it's like to be 15 or 16, and and I'm going to be the coolest mom, and I'm going to let my kids do this and that and everything. Those are the exact things that my 15-year-old says to me now.
It's happening.
So I think, when you think this is what I'm going to be like as a mom, when you become a mom of teenagers, you have changed, you have grown and evolved over the last 15, 16 years or more of your life.
So much. I just think even in the past, since I've had Ivy, the past 3 years, I've changed so much.
Yeah.
So in that period of time, it's...
Yeah. Well, I guess it would be even more because I didn't have him when I was 15.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just doing the math in my head now.
Yeah.
But anyways, from the time that you're 15 yourself to the time that you have a 15-year-old, you grow and evolve, and, you start to understand where your parents were coming from.
Right.
And so I guess when I first thought of what I would be like as a mom, that has changed now that I'm dealing with teenagers and they're telling me that
you didn't expect to become your mom.
Exactly. Yes. I didn't expect to become mom.
Yeah. You're like, wow, I didn't even realize it until this moment.
This very moment.
Is that what happened to me?
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Mom!
Mom! Hi, Mom!
Hi, Mom. We're talking about you.
I've become you.
Yeah, we really have become you.
Yeah.
What have you done to us?
Honest to God. So when Jake blames me for being such an overbearing mom, I'm going to blame you. Go tell Grandma.
You get to a point where then you realize, you're like, what kind of mom would I be if I didn't care, or if I totally just let you do what you wanted to do? Or
Exactly. And Mom always said to me when I was a teenager, whenever I was upset that I wasn't allowed to do something or whatnot, she would say to me that the fact that you're upset with me right now has to matter less to me than the fact that I have to stand before God and answer to what type of mother I was to you. So I've kind of taken that, and I guess applied that even being as a mom myself, is that, I'm not here. Of course, I want to, have a great relationship with my kids, but it matters more to me what kind of mother I am to them, and how the morals and the standards and the values that I'm trying to instill in them, and the ways that I try to protect them matters more to me, of that I can say I did everything that I could as a mom when I have to stand before God someday, than the fact that they're not happy with me in that moment. And I'm a firm believer that if your kids are always happy with you, you're not doing your job as a parent, because you have to say no, and you have to disappoint them when it's not easy.
It's so impactful. I remember Mom saying that all the time too. Like, she would always say that. And I think it's a good, sort of even life lesson to live by.
Yeah. Like they want that, and they need that.
Yeah.
They'll never admit it, but they do. Like, if I let them do whatever they wanted all the time, later on when they become adults and they see things like an adult, not like a teenager, they're going to say, why didn't she stop me from doing that?
Yeah.
Why didn't she care enough to make me stay home that night instead of going to that party when I got into, all this stuff when I should have been at home?
Yeah.
Why didn't she, insist that I not, whatever the case may be? They won't realize that now, because they'll hate you for it now, but later on they'll appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh,
I
for
hope,
sure.
anyways.
I do. I appreciate all the things now that at the time when I was a teenager, I was super angry about.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And times when I didn't listen, I'm like, why? I should have listened. Totally. She knew what she was talking about.
Yeah. And another little tidbit into the rebellious life of Candace as a teenager. I could not stand the fact that I wasn't allowed to do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. And because of that, I ended up moving in with our dad, because our parents split up when we were kids, when we were younger. I ended up moving in with my dad because my dad was much more relaxed and laid back and kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And, and because of that, I ended up getting myself into probably a lot of trouble, and that Mom wouldn't have stood for, or would have at least provided me with some opposition to what I was, the path that I was going down. But anyway, again, that's for a whole nother podcast that we can get into that. But so what's your parenting style, would you say?
I feel like I'm kind of a go with the flow type thing, if that makes sense. I feel like my parenting style is a little more just kind of go with the flow. Like, we're structured. The parenting style is structured in a lot of ways as well. But I'm also not really worried about things in a sense that, like, she has to know this by this age, or she has to stop doing this by this age, or she has to. I feel like in that way I'm more just going based on her cues. And
flow with the go of it.
Yeah. And I guess I kind of always thought that's kind of the parenting style that I would have. I don't think I really ever thought any different. I always thought that I would be more the disciplinary than Mitch, because...
Well, I can see that. Mitch is...
Yeah.
Mitch is the fun guy.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I still am. Maybe he'll disagree with me. But I feel like I am more the disciplinary than Mitch is.
Yeah, Mitch just wants to have fun.
Yeah.
He's laid back, and it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, he does, like, set ground rules and like, he does say no when he needs to.
He still knows how to dig his heels in when he needs to.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm more the one that has to really, like, drive, like, disciplinary things. So,
I feel like that might be across the board a lot.
Yeah.
With moms are more sticklers and things, and dads are like, oh, let's just have fun.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Our dad was like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it rings true for us. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, what do you think?
My parenting style, I think, is, I don't know, I like to pick my battles, for one, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. You got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
What you can let slide, let it slide. But what is, absolute no, I'm sorry, is absolute no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I pick my battles, but I'm very black and white. So it's when something is, I got to dig my heels in about something, my heels are dug in about it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's not right. It's not happening. No.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you can give in where you can give in, be lenient where you can, then when you do have to say no, then they can accept it more because they know that you give in when you can.
Yeah, they'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
They'll see that, like, you give leeway.
Yeah.
When you can.
Yeah.
And it's just a hard no. It's a hard no.
Yeah. And it has to be, because if they think they can break you, they will continue to try every time.
Yes.
If they don't know that your yeses are yeses and your no's are no's, then they will try to change your mind until they crack you.
Yeah. And that's, like, speaking of that, that's one thing I try to do with Ivy is I'm trying to get in the habit, and I have been since, she was born, is that I try and make it black and white for her too. It's like, oh, okay, do you want to put your clothes on now? Like, I don't say that, like, do you want to get dressed? I try to be cautious of not saying that, and instead I'll say, okay, it's time to put your clothes on now. So it's not like, you don't have the option to say no.
Yeah.
It's just time to do this, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that.
Definitely. Another part of my parenting style is that we are very much sticklers on respecting elders. Like my kids, even at 13 or 15, are not allowed to call adults by their first names. It's always been Mr. or Mrs. and the last name. And if the adult insists on them calling them the first name, then you have to at least put Miss or Mr. in front of it. It's just, I don't know. I'm old-fashioned, old school in a lot of ways, and that's one of them that I just think it's a small thing, but it shows respect. And it's, I think, a gesture that's kind of been lost along the way, and I think it's important. I don't know. What's kind of sad is that people are so surprised by it when they do it. Yeah. It's
strange.
Yeah, it's strange now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's something I've always been a stickler on, and I am a huge stickler on manners. You say please, you say thank you.
I know, like, I've noticed that's one thing that you've always done with Jake since he was born, is you've always been super aware of the fact that you want him to grow up and be a gentleman. Like, I've noticed that with how you raised him, that has always been a super important part of your parenting to him. And I think it's so lost nowadays. Like, there are very few gentlemen left in the world.
I know.
But Jake is one of them. That is going strong.
I hope so. I hope so.
Oh, he is for sure. He is, like, the sweetest teenager. I don't think any teenage boy that, was my age growing up was anywhere near as kind and, like, sweet and, like, passionate as him and, like, driven as him. And,
he is a sweet boy.
Yeah. And so I think, raising a gentleman is something you focused on. And if I ever have a little boy in the future, I would want to do the same.
Aww. That's so nice.
Well, it has. That has something to do with your parenting style.
Oh.
Did you even know it?
I do now. No, I did know that he's quite the gentleman.
And I think Mom, too, she's always very focused on that. Like, she's always, like, I hear her always saying that to Jake, too. Like, oh, or not really now, but when he was like like maybe Ivy's age, always like, oh, well, you're a gentleman. Like,
let me remind you.
I feel like she was always instilling that in him, too.
Yeah.
The best grandma ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
And then what we could touch on that in another episode too is trying to find a parenting style or trying to find your ground, I guess, as a stepmom. So that's been a completely different kind of experience, and
100%.
Trying to find how to do that. And every situation, every blended family dynamic is totally different. So, but yeah, that's a whole other kind of avenue.
Totally.
Of trying to co-parent, and sometimes the different families look totally different, and trying to find a common ground and trying to, so that's something that we can talk about sometime on another later episode.
Yeah, and in this day and age, there's no shortage of people, I don't think, that would want to hear about that or that are in a similar boat.
And that can relate. Yeah,
totally. In this age where, we don't fix what's broke. We just get something new.
I know. It's disposable.
Yeah, it's a disposable society.
Yeah.
Well, we'll totally touch on that in other episodes.
100%. Sure. Yeah. So much to talk about.
We're turning on taps all over the dang place.
I know.
We got stuff to talk about over here.
We're just hoping to kind of hook, line, and sinkers yet to keep on listening, because we got some stuff to talk about. Things are going to get real.
Yeah,
things are going to get raw.
More stuff over here.
Over there.
It's raw.
So why don't we just wrap it up and talk about what we kind of had some ups and downs in our experiences here, but why don't we end up kind of on a higher note of what's your greatest joy of being a mom?
Totally. I love that she wants to be just like me. She imitates me all the time, which is eye-opening, because I'm realizing that I have to be very, very aware of, things I say around her, things I do around her now, because she wants to be just like me, which is, I love. When I go upstairs to brush my teeth or wash my face, she comes and she does the same thing. She'll grab her toothbrush and she'll grab her stool and bring it over, and she'll splash the water on her face like me. And the other day, she was trying to put on my face cream too. And it's just anything I do. If I'm drinking something, if I'm eating something, she's got to be right there with me. So,
and that never goes away. They are always going to do what you do. They're going to watch you their whole life, and you're going to teach them. It's do as what's the saying?
You're to be your protege.
No, they don't do it. Don't do as I.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, they're going to do what you do, not what you say.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that. That when I catch her doing something because she's seen me do it, or because I'm doing it in the moment and she wants to do it too, I just
You're mini me.
My heart explodes.
Yeah, you're mini me.
She is.
Mini me.
My baby. What is your greatest joy?
I think, again, because I'm at a different stage in motherhood with my kids as teenagers, I think it's a combination of seeing that they're turning out to be decent people and being able to be so proud of the things that they're doing, the choices that they're making.
Hard work's paying off.
Yeah, how they kind of seeing how they set themselves apart, and the morals and the standards that they put into practice in their lives. I have always told my kids for so long, and I know it's not the formal definition, but I've always told them the definition of wisdom is making choices now that you'll be happy with in your future. And I've always told them, make your choices wisely, make choices that you're never going to regret them, and to make yourself proud. So I think that I see them do that all the time, and we have such an open, honest communication. I love that, because I know that they're not afraid to come to me and talk to me about anything. And I've told them before that there's nothing you can ever tell me that is going to shock me.
Yeah.
Or that is going to make me feel any differently about you, or make me judge you, or make me, judge you, or anything. Pretty much because there's not much you can do that I haven't done.
Right.
So, it's not going to shock me. But I want them to know that they can come to me and I can help them through it, or help them make good choices. And so far they they do that all the time. So one of the greatest joys for me is being able to trust them the way that I do. I love that I can trust my teenage kids because they come to me and tell me things that are hard to tell me. So I don't worry about them hiding things because they come and tell me things that, you know, I at their age probably would not have told my mom.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
they're so transparent.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And I don't know. So that, and the fact that when I mess up, and it happens frequently, like me and my husband are not above apologizing to our children. We do it frequently, actually. If I'm wrong, I tell them, I should not have said what I said. I jumped to the conclusion I should have listened to you more. So whatever the case may be, I think it's, to a certain level, it shows the kids value when you can bring yourself down from I am mom, hear me roar kind of thing, to down to their level. And, you were right. And how I treated you was wrong. Yeah. Then I think it makes them respect you even more, I think. But and then how quickly they are to forgive you and move on. And they just love you. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's different when they're teenagers and you see that they want to be around you and they trust you and they talk to you and they want to forgive you when you mess up and they love you no matter what you do. And it's just, I don't know, it's a different time in my life as a mom now. And I think that's my greatest joy, is seeing that my teenagers aren't jerkholes.
Pretty cool.
Hopefully they're going to be good contributing members of society.
Oh man, that's amazing. So you said, make yourself proud. Would you say that's your motherhood motto?
Totally.
For yourself?
Yes.
Like how you
make yourself proud.
Yeah. I guess your parenting style, and that's your sort of motto.
100%.
That you live by.
Yeah. Don't worry about other people doing things that other people want you to do. You want to be happy and be true to yourself and be proud of yourself. Don't have regrets. Be proud of yourself. Yeah.
Be able to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yes, exactly. Clear conscience.
Yeah, exactly.
Accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
Yeah, and do it proudly.
Yes. You should be a motivational speaker.
Yeah. My motto is be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Always.
So important.
I say that to Ivy all the time. Be kind to yourself.
Especially now in a society that we're just so groomed to be so critical of ourselves.
Yeah,
we need to be the biggest self-advocates. Advocates for ourselves.
On that note, make yourself proud.
And be kind to yourself.
To yourself.
Be kind to your bad self.
And then get on with your bad self. Get on with it.
Get on with it.
Well, it looks like we're teetering on that 1 hour mark.
We are. We talked for a long time.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We should wrap this up.
Yeah.
We were going to talk more about like the first year of motherhood.
We kind of did.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't totally miss a lot.
As we keep going through all of our episodes, more things are going to be touched on and revealed as we go. And, as we're telling our stories that relate to whatever we talk about and things like that. So it's impossible to get all of our experiences and thoughts on motherhood cram it all into one little episode. But yeah, I think it was a great chat about our
I hope we got like our highlights and our kind of
our highlights and lowlights.
Yeah, across. The good times.
And the bad times.
And the trials.
And the in-between times.
And the terrific times.
And successes. Yeah. That's motherhood.
Yeah.
That is motherhood.
It's a merry-go-round.
It sure is. There's like ups and downs there. Oh my God, what am I doing? I'm destroying my children. And then there's times where you're like, they're not so bad. Look what I did.
I think if you're always worried and always wondering if you're doing it right, you are.
Exactly.
Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't be thinking about it.
Exactly. The fact that you even wonder if you're doing an okay job should tell you that you are.
You are. You're winning. Hashtag winning.
Yeah. Hashtag winning at hashtag mom life.
Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. Thanks for finding us.
On our
Honest to God
podcast.
Subscribe to this podcast and, leave a review. Send us a question or a topic that you want us to cover or discuss. Send it to the email If you want to, drop it in a review, that's cool too.
Really cool.
Get social with us. Follow us on our Instagram page.
And share.
Share
the crap out of it.
Tell
your friends. Tell your neighbors.
The crap out of it. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your people.
Beeps.
Tell
your beeps.
All right, guys.
Shout it on the street.
Shout it.
Honest to God.
Honest to God.
Podcast.
All right, guys.
Oh, man.
You'll hear from us in the next episode.
Sure will. Come back.
Don't leave.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
You hear? All right. # let's get this party started.